Story 1, Loyalty Goes Both Ways. I am a worker bee in a company that got bought out by a much bigger company earlier this year. Even though we were a small company, the teams were flexible, and everyone helped each other, and the company was profitable. Not to the new ownership though. Apparently our company was shit, and needed to be immediately fixed with structure, hierarchy, and order. The managers I've worked so well with over the years are gone. The new owners promised no change, nothing to worry about, everything will be the same. Except that within a month, all the experienced managers who made the workplace so great to work for are let go. What is worse, they've been replaced by emotionless walking husks resembling ghosts. With hammers as their only tool, and we're all nails. Never mind the incessant preaching of company spirit and loyalty and respect and company values. We all moan at these pep talks. We all yawn at the town halls. Then the less subtle threats, oh, you're not a team player if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you need to work OT, or else that's not fair to everyone else. You're leaving on time, again. The culture certainly has changed. For one, I didn't even dare to take off early to pick up my kids from school anymore. Finally, the toxic culture of fear and backstabbing. Every word's said against the direction, even off the cuff in a chit-chat, and every little facial or nonverbal gesture against the flow are immediately and harshly met with reprimands. For example, another worker bee was recently let go for restructuring, despite stellar work performance. He just couldn't keep his thoughts to himself, I guess. I hope I painted a good picture of what life under the iron fist is like. Many of us are contemplating of leaving, but the job market is quite depressing in our area. The cost of living is high, and we are afraid of being the neck that sticks out. So everyone suffers in silence. The company recently appointed a new CEO who, in his opening introduction to everyone, demanded undivided loyalty to him. It means we must follow his every direction. It means we must smile in his presence and be super upbeat. I think the expectation here is we must cry like North Korean women in the presence of the supreme leader Kim Jong-un. You want us absolute loyalty? I believe loyalty goes both ways. But we can show you loyalty, we all got the message. You want us to play Oscar-winning actors and actresses instead of actually getting work done and speaking our minds to make the company better? You got it, for those of us who read and trust each other, but we still need to be careful. We would have hours-long meetings with each other, on topics that sound important, but don't actually matter. We make sure our days are jammed-packed full of discussions on how to move initiatives forward, but never actually discuss anything of substance and never have aggressive action items to follow up on. We absolutely never forget to praise the leadership in the meeting minutes. Off the books, though, there's lots of small talks, for the sake of team building. Whenever we're questioned by these husks of a ghost, we'd pull out the corporate roadmap and point to the initiatives we've spent so many hours working on. We'd defend our time with the budget that recently got rolled out. Look, we're on side. We've gone so far as requesting additional resources in next year's budget to ensure our very busy initiatives continue to make headway. We're basically creating a public perception of busy, without actually doing too much. We were a lean small company. Now we're a fat, busybody where everything is bloated and compartmentalized. We shut our faces and we nodded, we clapped the hardest after every presidential speeches, and we lost money in the last several months. That's the price we pay to give one-sided loyalty. We're still looking for other jobs. Story 2, it doesn't look like you have enough to do. Got my first career job in a local government, keeping tabs on its real estate and the legal documents relating to said real estate. I'm wet behind the ears, my first 40-hour-per-week career job. This was a time when multitasking was a huge buzzword in business, and it seemed every single job I applied for required someone with good multitasking skills. I thought it was bullshit. I worked best when only working on one task at a time and managing my workload via a daily time allotment schedule. That is, I'd schedule my work in 15-minute lumps when I got in the morning and work on those tasks. That way, I never missed a deadline. Or had a project fall between the cracks. For example, some tasks got slotted 2 hours. Some whole days. Some just 15 minutes. I loved to keep my desk clean. All tasks that appeared in my physical inbox were sorted and prioritized. The paperwork was then filed, and the task scheduled, for later that day, or later in the week depending on how urgent it was. Consequently, my desk was always empty, save one folder, and a few maps related to the folder. Once one task was done, that folder and its maps were filed, a new folder and its maps were retrieved. One afternoon my direct boss walks in, looks at my desk with its one folder and 2 maps, looks at my clean-topped filing cabinets. Looks at my empty inbox, physical one you actually put paper/folders in. Grunts. Walks out. 20 minutes later, my boss strides back into my office, drops 18 inches of folders and papers onto my inbox. States proudly and firmly, "It doesn't look like you have enough to do. This should keep you busy." He smiled and strutted back to his cluttered office. It was busy work. 3 weeks of mind-numbing, paperwork. Nothing outside of my work description. Just more like duplicate files, old contracts, unorganized paperwork, and/or outdated maps. In dealing with the dump's aftermath, I learned my lesson. While doing my actual job was important, it was equally important that hard work appear to be happening, so I could do my actual job. I started saving old files, old maps, and old legal documents. I rebound up papers, that normally would have been recycled, into legitimate-looking folders. I transformed my office into a duplicate of my boss' chaotic, file paper, hellscape. My inbox always had papers and folders in it. Height and number would vary, daily. Never empty. I had folders piled on top of the file cabinets, folders in stacks on the floor. 24 of those white office boxes packed with files towering around my work area. I even had a map rack with old maps rolled up in it. My office looked utterly cluttered. I even took to walking everywhere with a steno pad, a file folder, and sometimes a map under my arm. Didn't matter where. Getting coffee? Pad and file. Pooping? Pad and file. Pointless meeting? Pad. 2 files. Actual necessary and productive meeting. Pad, relevant file, relevant map. Every morning, right after scheduling my real work, I would shuffle the fake folders and paper around my desk and work area. Move the boxes about every 2 weeks. But in all that visual chaos I kept one area of my desk clean, where the real work happened. One day, my boss peeked into my office, the door bumping into a stack of 3 full white boxes placed behind it, preventing it from fully opening. A single file fell off the top, spilling its guts all over the floor. He looked around, paused at the mess he just made, then, sorry about that. What you working on?" I rattled off 3 of the highest priority properties on the current week's schedule and the tasks for each. "All right, I'll give this to someone else," and walked on down the hall. I'd already completed those tasks. Story 3, you just need to prioritize. Soon ex-boss. Hey, maybe not the most interesting or crazy story, but still some malicious compliance from my end. English is not my first language, so please be kind. I have been working in IT for the last 10 years. 4 of those in the company I am just leaving. I joined this company after a few bad experiences with coworkers and bosses. After getting to know some of the staff in the company, I was really happy about the coworkers and colleagues, because most of them seemed to be really friendly. Into my second year at the company I felt like we were understaffed in IT. Not too bad still, I thought. That was up until our workload increased. Before we could handle the daily stuff and projects, and on top could do some system upgrades over the year. Now we were getting more and more work due to new regulations from corporate and more software that needed to be supported. During this time, I started asking my team leader to look for a new guy. We needed more hands. After a year of bringing this up at least once per month, my boss started with his speech about you just need to prioritize your work. Of course, this would not help if the work is at like 110% of the load that the current team could handle. We increased our hours and could get it done, but that was only for half a year. At this point I was done with this whole ordeal. Corporate IT got more and more hostile. If you did not message some people directly, what was prohibited normally, and on top I saw people left and right leaving. After around 3 years of being with the company I saw our trainee leave. I talked to him about pay and why he wanted to leave. Not to deter him, but to understand his reasoning and show my support. And at that point I have been passively looking for a job for about 6 months. I was at this time talking to my team leader and telling him that he needs to increase my salary by around 8% at least and bring more hands to the team. He was asking me why I wanted to leave. I told him about the problems that he knows and said that I can't bring myself to stay in this company with the problems the team is facing. I just need to prioritize myself. He did not react, unfortunately, but I think he got the point. As a side note, later I heard from my boss, basically the one above my team leader and me, that my team leader has never asked for more people. And to be honest, I want to trust this guy, because he was sincere all the time as far as I know. Edit. Now I see the problem with my post. I should proofread a second time. I changed one of the quotes as the quote was sometimes, you just need to prioritize, and sometimes you just need to prioritize your work. Second edit, because I did not say it word by word, I handed in my resignation and start my new job next month. Story 4, sprained ankle, boss wanted a doctor's note to pay 1 day of sick time, now he's paying a week. I twisted and sprained my ankle Monday morning packing up our camp from Labor Day weekend. Having done this a few times in the past, I didn't want to bother to have it checked out. Who wants to pay $1,000 for urgent care to tell you to rest and ice it? Yay America, so I went to work Tuesday. I got morning stuff done and explained the situation to my boss, told him I'd need to take the day because it was swollen and painful and I needed to rest and be off of it in order for it to heal. He gets in a tizzy because God forbid anyone needs to miss work for anything at all ever, and snaps at me for not planning to go to the doctor. Wednesday I go into work, still limping and still wearing improper footwear. I can only fit the injured foot into a crock without unbearable pain. The first thing the boss says is, "Don't you think you should get that checked out? I don't understand why you don't want to just pay for it." I explain again that I've had this injury in the past. It's definitely not broken and honestly not even as swollen as it has been when I've done it before. I want to be at work to keep up on things and make everyone's job less difficult. I would just need to take it easy for a couple days, which isn't a problem considering I can do 90% of the job from my desk and the 10% slack is beyond easy for everyone to pick up, especially when not being there makes them pick up 100% of it. This gets met with more attitude, so I ask if I'll be getting paid sick time for the day I missed yesterday. He says no, not without a doctor's note. you can visibly see the injury clear as day and I'm trying here so WTF. I'm fed up by this point, so a little later on I say okay and leave to go to the doctor's for the note he wants so badly, knowing full well what they'll say to treat it and that I'll need to be off of it for 3 to 5 days. After an x-ray and getting the yup it's sprained, keep doing what you've been doing. I let them know my boss asked for a note for missing a day of work to rest it. Doc asks if I want to be at work to do what I can and stay off of it as best as possible. I said that's what I've been trying to do, so I'm fine with that. I do have sick time if it would be more beneficial to be off of it for a couple days. She comes back with a note that I may return to work on September 9th, which would be Monday. I took a picture and shot it over to boss man, just the photo. He replies what wrong with ankle, which I met with no response considering none is needed. He got his note. I just wanted a day of sick time, 8 hours. Now he's paying me 4 days, 32 hours. He can't refuse a second of it. Dr. sprained my ankle, tried to work and do what I can. Boss gets snarky because he can't understand a person that makes $600 a week not wanting to pay $1,000 to be told something they already know. He insists on a doctor's note to pay 1 day of sick pay. Doctor writes note to take me out of work for the week. ETA, I have an HSA and I'm on a high deductible health plan by choice. I'm not losing any real money in this situation and it was well worth the price either way. Story 5, just let the kids sort it out themselves. Okay then. Hi gang, edit. Now with TLDR at the end. Backstory. I live in a town in the Netherlands with a university, and a few years ago my GF's cousin got accepted as an overseas student. My GF is Japanese. Her family, father, mother, her sister and herself, moved to the Netherlands while she was younger. Her cousin still lived in Japan when she applied. Got accepted and is now living in a student room in the Netherlands. We don't really have dorms here like in the US, but the building she lives in is maintained by the university itself. Said cousin is doing quite well for herself, got good grades and is well on her way to get her diploma. Partly because of this, the overseas family decided to have their vacation in the Netherlands this year, both for leisure and a bit of a family gathering. This story takes place during the family gathering. My GF's parents and the cousin's parents plus yet another family had a meeting in a restaurant in my hometown. They had 2 little kids in tow, sisters. These looked like 8 or 9 or so to me, but my GF later told me that they are actually 11 and 12 but did look younger than they were. Probably also because of their school uniform, at least that's what it looked like to me. I really don't know. Anyway, the idea was to catch up with the family and my GF was asked if she would be willing to keep the 2 young kids busy for a few hours since she was the oldest of the lot. My GF and me are in our 40s, her studying cousin is around 25 and as said. The 2 kids are around 10, 11 and 12. My GF didn't mind but did ask me if I wanted to come along as well. Well, her cousin didn't mind. The 3 of us had met a few times before already, and well, it was all about keeping the young kids busy anyway. Oh, for the record, the 2 young kids basically only speak Japanese. They do understand bits of English and can even speak some, but it's mostly Japanese. My GF's cousin speaks both Japanese and English and has even learned quite a bit of the Dutch language as well. Seriously, for the few years she's been here it's IMO quite impressive. My GF speaks Japanese, English and Dutch, and as for me, Dutch, obviously, and English, but over the years I also managed to pick up a decent bit of Japanese as well, and I can often, not always, understand the general gist of things. As long as it's not too quickly spoken or too complicated. So basically it was all English and Japanese between us. A bully shows up. We took the kids for a walk through my hometown and they were quite interested, but when we went past a playground, that also quickly got their attention. So the three of us decided to go sit on a bench and let the kids have some fun. There were several activities like an air balloon castle, swings, a sandbox for younger kids to play in, just plenty of things to do. The two wanted to go into the castle, which was fine with my GF as long as they made sure to only use the entrance/exit, which was located on our side, so that they wouldn't get lost and we could keep track of them. The three of us talked quite a bit but also kept eyes on the castle. So, around 15 or so minutes later, I spot the two again by accident near the exit with a little kid in between them. I have no idea, but I'd say she was around 8 or so. I can't really tell exactly what's going on, but I did see the kid point to the area of the sandbox, and that's where the three of them headed next. Before I can say anything to my GF, a young lady walks up to us and asks, in Dutch, if we have seen a little girl passing by. This seems way too coincidental to me, so I ask, is she wearing a pink dress by any chance? The woman's face lights up as I tell her that she seems to be with my GF's younger cousins, and I point to the sandbox. But when we look over, we now also see an older boy near the girls. I'm not good with guessing ages, let's just say that he was bigger than them, and he's clearly harassing them. The small girl is visibly crying but also comforted by one of the two younger cousins while the other is keeping the boy away from her. We all walk over to the sandbox just when the boy manages to shove one of the cousins out of his way, and he's clearly trying to bully the young girl, in the pink dress. But now stopped by the other cousin. Which is when we arrive. The woman who is with us berates the boy and tells him to stop picking on young children. But the little brat clearly isn't very impressed. The incident, next moment his mother, so I assume, storms over yelling, and she has every appearance of a Karen. Or, a talkie, as we tend to call them over here. A little argument ensues, mainly between the mother of the girl in the pink dress and our Karen/talkie. It goes back and forth, but it's apparent that according to his mother, the brat did nothing wrong by picking on a girl half his own size, and this fine example of a mother even has the audacity to blame the other mother for raising such a weak little C-word. Basically, dat krijg je ervan als je dom hupel kotjes opvoedt. And then the Karen says, kids will be kids, just let them sort out their own problems already, but she does take the boy with her as she walks away. The mother gets ready to grab her kid and leave, but in the meantime the girl has completely calmed down and is actually having a great time with the two cousins. Unknown to anyone else yet at this time, my GF decides to comply with the earlier suggestion. First she asks the mother to reconsider leaving because the kids are having so much fun together. My GF also comments how amazing kids are because they clearly don't speak the same language, yet they seem to understand each other just fine and are having a good time. The mother agrees, and my GF now addresses both her cousins in Japanese. And it sounded very serious to me, something about the tone, the way she talked, and also looked at both girls, even a bit sternly. They both nodded, and clearly said, "Hi," aka, "Yes ma'am." I think I even saw a small head bow, but I'm not too sure. Our little group goes to sit on a bench nearby, and for the next 5 minutes nothing happens. We're just having some small talk. Then the bully returns. The mother of the small girl wanted to stand up but gets stopped by my GF, who tells her that she has nothing to worry about because her kid is completely safe. Just watch, trust me on this. The mother is visibly uneasy but does remain seated, which is when I noticed that the behavior and stance of the two cousins has completely changed. They seem much more confident and relaxed. The boy starts making a fuss while one of the cousins stands up, points to him and yells something at him, in Japanese, obviously. He, once again, tries to shove her out of his way, but this time she's faster. She steps aside, does something with her leg and gives him a huge shove. Next moment he's eating sand. No, literally. He gets up visibly angry while his face is covered in sand. This time he becomes violent and actually tries to hit one of the cousins with his fists. Yeah, tries. She evades one attempt, then grabs his hand, spins it around, and the next moment the boy finds his arm twisted behind his back and he starts screaming. The other cousin now also stands up, pats the young girl on her head, makes another move, and once again the boy gets shoved to the ground, this time by both cousins. Hard. When he looks up, the other cousin actually makes a moving gesture as if she wants to kick him, but without actually moving her legs or anything. She's obviously just threatening him. My GF pokes me with a huge grin on her face and tells me, "Surely that deserves a point for self-restraint, don't you agree?" She's visibly loving every moment of this. Apparently the boy isn't totally stupid and he runs off, while one cousin immediately turns to the young girl again, who is clearly still having a good time. Not at the least upset with the bully. "What was dat in God's name?" the mother asks. "Oh, sorry, what the hell was that?" she asks. My GF tells the mother that her cousins are taking the same self-defense classes as she and her sister once did, and that she had decided to pull ranks by telling her cousins that it was okay for them to actually defend themselves, as long as they didn't overdo it. Of course, the mother wanted to know more about these classes, but unfortunately for her, my GF had to tell her that the actual school was located all the way out in a suburb of Tokyo, so not something her daughter would be able to attend. Mommy returns with a BOA guard. We're chatting some more for the next 10 minutes, after which the bully's mother storms over to us with a BOA in tow. BOA is Dutch for Bewust ongeschikt ambtenaar, sorry, buitengewoon which basically means so much as being a deputy but without the proper training nor having any weapons. Generally speaking, most of them usually handle ticketing people. He tells us that he has gotten a complaint from the woman about people beating up her kid, to which the mother of the young girl immediately snaps, "Whatever happened with letting the kids sort out their own problems?" Now, the funny thing is, apparently the whole spectacle didn't really go unnoticed, and before we could say or do anything, someone else had stormed over as well. "I saw the whole thing, officer," an older woman said. Her brat, pointing at the Karen/Taki, was harassing and beating the kid in the pink dress when those two awesome kids stepped in and protected her. Meanwhile another man had walked over. "Officer, that brat got everything he deserved. He started it. The only thing that happened was that those girls defended themselves from him." The officer listened to everyone's statements, and ended up deciding to ticket the mother of the brat. I assume for disturbing the peace, but I don't know any details because at this time we decided to leave and we went our separate ways. Aftermath: during our walk back to the hotel/restaurant, the cousins told us the whole story. And I actually learned something new as well. While they were in the castle, they saw the boy harassing the young girl in the pink dress and immediately decided that this wasn't right, also because he was almost twice her size. He actually pulled on her hair while she was already crying, which made the cousins plain out angry, but the only thing they did was get the boy away from the girl. One cousin distracted the boy by blocking him from grabbing the girl's hair again, and she also started taunting him, while the other comforted the young girl and led her to the exit, but the one we agreed on. So the girl's mother never saw her leave and got worried. The other cousin managed to lose the boy in the crowd, at first anyway, and she joined her sister near the exit. So I asked my GF why they didn't do all that stuff right away, to which she told me that they weren't allowed to. The first rule of self-defense is apparently, always leave if you can, and her cousins are at a level where the use of these techniques outside their school is strictly prohibited, unless there's an actual threat, of course, or if they've been given direct permission by an elder of the same school. A rule which my GF was stretching a little bit, but she told me that she would write up the whole altercation so that the cousins could take her letter back with them. She was actually not kidding when she talked about points for self-restraint, because that would actually be her advice in the letter. But yeah, typical hypocrite behavior, let the kids sort it out, until it suddenly doesn't go your way. Thanks for reading, TLDR, my GF's overseas family, equals Japanese, decided to have their vacation in the Netherlands this year. They also organized a family gathering. During said gathering, my GF was asked to look after two of her younger cousins, age 11 and 12, and to keep them busy for a few hours. She was fine with that. Her student cousin, who is studying at a local university, tagged along, and I also got invited. First we checked out my hometown, but when we passed a playground, the teenage cousins really wanted to play there, so we let them. During their play they came across an older boy who was harassing a young girl. He was easily twice her size, and the cousins did not appreciate this. They took it on themselves to get the young girl out of the balloon castle they were in. My guess would be that she was 8 or 9 years old or so. The boy followed them into the sandbox. A little altercation happened between the bully's mother and the mother of the young girl. The Karen in this story basically told us off. It was perfectly fine what her son did, just let kids sort out their own problems already. Which my GF, unknown to us, took to heart, and she complied to that by telling her cousins that if the boy would harass them again, then they were free to actually defend themselves. Said boy did return, tried to shove one of the cousins out of his way, and ended up with his arm twisted behind his back and getting thrown hard into the sand by both cousins, who somewhat implied that they were only getting started. He took off. The boy's mom later returned with a BOA, equals an official police assistant, but several bystanders who had also seen the incident quickly told the officer what happened and spoke up against the bully. Mom of the Year ended up with a fine, but I don't know any further details. Thanks again for reading, hope you enjoyed. Edit. Thanks you guys for all the warm feedback and comments. Yes, even you critics who shared some critical comments, because IMO, that is what Reddit is all about. Reason for my thank you vent is because this is the first time since the new awards that I got one for myself. I think still need to look into expiration and such. Unimportant. I am very much moved with all the feedback, up-tos, and now even an award. Thanks you guys, you're awesome. Yes, even you critics. No, I'm not joking. Without people telling me no TLDR, I would never have thought of that, and so it got added.